I can make myself more attractive. I'm actually not presenting. Or for the fun.
This is your wireless mic for speakers for just clip it, or you can hold it if you want.
Recording and
loose. Alright, check. How do I sound? Check, check. That's fine. Guess I'll hold it.
Speak a little louder.
be able to finish your lapel. Yeah.
Alright. Yeah?
Yeah.
Can everybody hear Chris all right?
How do I sound? Good? Alright.
Ready to go?
Yeah, ready to go.
It's your favorite color, right?
It's a beautiful color. It's beautiful. You good? Alright. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Chris Martinez. I will be talking to you about the executive order on private sector cybersecurity information sharing. First, I want to say it's an honor to be here. My first B-Sides was b-sidesorlando last year, so I'm excited to be talking. Yeah, woo. Excited to be talking this year. So a little bit about me. I work at ReliaQuest as an IT security engineer. We are a co-managed IT security solutions provider. We assess, secure, manage your security and compliance posture. We do that through various solutions and 24/7 services. I primarily work with SIEM management, from content development, installations, and daily management for many different SIEMs. We work with all types of the big ones, ArcSight, QRadar, Logarithm, SecureView, Family Vault, more. I graduated from the University of Tampa with a degree in management information systems, focused in security with my own study time and any available classes in there as well. My two biggest interests in information security is SIEM utilization, which really I mean by the concept of integration with a centralized location, excuse me, and evolution of information security. So by that I mean the way that this field and the people in this field are going with information security in general, and also the societal and kind of the philosophy and how it changes in our society. So, let me fix this. All right, so introducing the executive order on promoting private sector and cybersecurity information sharing. The purpose of presenting this topic is to bring awareness to everyone that what is going on in our society, especially with our field and community of the cybersecurity. That also includes technologically and politically. So we as a cybersecurity community are going to be confronted with proposed changes whether we like it or not. Thanks, Obama. So, however, it is our responsibility to identify what is going on, analyze the effects, and also respond appropriately. So what is the executive order? The executive order is a framework that allows expansion of information sharing designed to help companies work together with the federal government as well to quickly identify and protect against cyber threats. The framework contains 4 key points: encouraging private sector cybersecurity collaboration, improve private-public information sharing, provide strong privacy and civil liberties protections, and pave the way for future legislation. Now, rapid information sharing is an essential component for effective cybersecurity protection. It enables U.S. companies to work together to respond to threats rather than operating alone. So how does this affect us? Well, for the first time in history, we are experiencing encouragement of sharing security information with third parties and also the government. as we know with the NSA, that's still a very touchy topic for a lot of people because privacy is privacy. We've been taught that, and we have been rolling with procedures and policies to protect that idea and concept. However, even Congress in recent years has attempted to pass legislation that would encourage cybersecurity or cyber threat information sharing, but even those bills have been shot down by the concern over privacy. But this year at HP's Software Government Summit in Washington, D.C., even the HP Senior Vice President and General Manager of Enterprise Security Products, Art Gilliland, said, cyber threat information sharing is one of the few ways organizations can be proactive in dealing with cyber attacks. Now that is huge, especially as a security company. He is saying, look, we need to be proactive, and this is the way to do it. So now that we know what it is and how it affects us, we'll drill into how it works. So the executive order encourages the development of information sharing and analysis organizations, also known as ISAOs. The ISAOs will serve as focal points for cybersecurity information sharing and collaboration within the private sector and between the private sector and the government. Now, in encouraging the creation of ISAOs, the executive order expands information sharing through the formation of communities that share information across a region or in response to a specific emerging threat in an industry. So an ISAO can be a non-for-profit, a membership organization, or single company facilitating sharing among its customers or partners. So that's also a upcoming business idea for a lot of companies, is to become that non-for-profit company for any threats that they are receiving, either through honeypots or any other means. We're going to see a lot of these come up very soon. According to the 2015 Cisco Annual Security Report, 1% of high-urgency CVEs were actively exploited. Now, that is where ISAOs come into play. So, with that 1% of high urgencies.
Sorry, quick question. What does that differ from like MITRE's role?
Well, this is going to be kind of also similar to like ISACs, and I will do questions after. Thanks. So, according to Cisco's 2015 report, so 1% of high urgency CVEs were exploited. However, that means that more companies need to be more proactive, and also that these threats need to be shared more quickly. So, collaborating with ISAOs via the DHS, National Cybersecurity Communications Integration Centers, with that, they'll be sharing information related to cybersecurity risks and incidents. So, a perfect example of this was HITRUST, which is the Health Information Trust Alliance. They have actually been very progressive with this executive order and the ideas coming out of this. So in the wake of the Anthem breach, the industry was able to experience the effectiveness of information sharing when HITRUST was able to share indicators of compromise with the healthcare industry within 1 hour after the Anthem after Anthem posted them to the automated HITRUST CTX. So their CTX is their cyber threat exchange. The indicators of compromise were also shared with the Department of Health and Human Services, Homeland Security, and US CERT, who share the indicators of compromise with other industry ISAOs. So HITRUST has recently made access to CTX, their cyber threat exchange, easier by offering a free subscription for any healthcare organizations. Now imagine if we have many industries doing this, having this available, retail industry, financial industry, that we have many industries pulling this data together and sharing it even with each other within the United States. Okay, that is the goal of the executive order, is to get that communication rapidly sharing this information all throughout the United States companies. So as of, as of Wednesday, April 8th, just the other day, ThreatStream announced a groundbreaking partnership with HITRUST, and through the partnership, HITRUST is offering their cyber threat exchange powered by ThreatStream as a service that streamlines cyber threat information sharing and significantly accelerates detection of and response to cyber threats targeted at the healthcare industry. So, developing the baseline will enable ISAOs to quickly demonstrate their policies and security protocols to potential partners. The executive order calls out to clarify the Department of Homeland Security's authority with information sharing organizations. So with that is streamlining national cybersecurity communications and integration centers, information sharing agreements with ISAOs. So one more thing was to fund the creation of a nonprofit organization to develop a common set of voluntary standards for ISAOs. So that is also going to include business processes, operating procedures, privacy protections, which is the big goal here, is to keep data private while also being functional to share to other companies and industries. So sharing organizations must engage in an open public review and comment process for the development of standards. It's also going to improve private-public information sharing by, like I said, clarifying the Department of Homeland Security's authority with information sharing organizations. This is going to ensure robust and voluntary information sharing. And by streamlining private sector's companies' abilities to access classified cybersecurity threat information, this is going to provide valuable context to network defenders and enhance their abilities to protect their systems. So the Department of Homeland Security will approve classified information sharing agreements and arrangements. The administration intends on expanding sharing on sharing information to complement the existing effect of relationships between the government and the private sector. And there we go. All right. So here's actually how the HITRUST, CTX, and collaboration works right now. And I use their example. This is all from their HITRUST Alliance website because they've actually done, like I said, a very good job at being able to demonstrate the effectiveness of collaboration and rapid information sharing of their security information. So as you can see here, when the breach occurs at Organization 1, IOCs and attack details will be distributed to the CTX. And other organizations will receive observables and will be directly integrated into their detection infrastructure, such as SIEMs, IDS, IPS, and other technologies. And that I'll go into a little bit more detail in just a moment, but that is also done through the software installed within their CTX and other collaboration software that will be pushed out. So organizations can continue to monitor for future occurrences as they have this information already shared across the board. So as you can see here, for their threat indicator acquisition, they get their threat information by many different sources. So the goal is, again, is to get this into every type of industry within the United States, especially the main ones such as the financial, healthcare. So in this case, they have the DHS feeding into this with their threat information. They also have partners, Homeland Security, like I said, trusted collaboration, and their own sandbox environments, and also the modern honeynet. This is all information that are all sources that HITRUST gets their information from. And with this new executive order, what we'd want to do is also push that back out, any information that is received in the internal end, and push it back out for that to be able to be spread to other industries. Now, threat information is rapidly imported into the CTX, which is available for an enterprise to distribute this information into their security tools, such as you can see here, like Logarithm, ArcSight, Splunk, QRadar, etc. So HITRUST specifically uses their optic link to implement the security tool and the information that they're receiving in their CTX. So the executive order is also going to provide strong privacy and civil liberties protections. Now, this ensures that information sharing enabled by this new framework will include strong protections and privacy and civil liberties. So ISAOs will agree to abide by a common set of voluntary standards, such as minimization, which is going to be redacting sensitive information without affecting the function of the information being provided. Now, In addition, agencies collaborating with ISAOs under this order will coordinate their activities with their senior agent officials for privacy and civil liberties and ensures that appropriate protections for privacy and civil liberties are in place and are based upon the fair information practice principles, such as protecting PII in all media through appropriate security safeguards. There are also many other fair information practice principles that deal with specifically privacy in regards to the information that is being shared. Nice. All right. Paving the way for future legislation. This is intended to complement existing effective relationships between the government and private sector. So building out the concept of ISAOs as a framework for the targeted liability protections that the administrators has long asserted are pivotal for incentivizing and expanding information sharing. The administration will intend to use this proposal to complement and not to limit existing effective relationships between the government and the private sector. You know, the goal here is to really to strengthen not only the trust but the effectiveness of all the information sharing that's going on between the government and the private sector. So with that, there's actually going to be a major cybersecurity bill this month that is granting companies protection from legal liability if they choose to voluntarily share certain cyber threat data with the government. Now, this does bring up a lot of questions, and I see some eyebrows being raised in the crowd. So, we're so used to the privacy, we're so used to being secure with our own privacy and not wanting to share, and being taught time after time again that sharing is not good, especially with third parties and the government. How much are they surveilling? Well, I want you guys to know that this is not meant to be surveillance on anybody, but this is simply meant to protect companies within the United States from, breaches such as the big Sony breach that happened. That was actually one of the big driving factors of this executive order was the Sony breach and other breaches that come along the way. And big companies such as HP, like we talked about, have realized that being proactive and that the ability to share this information rapidly is going far beyond software security solutions and also services such as that. Now it's coming down to us being proficient in our processes and procedures. So with that, it is time HP, I'll just keep going forward, but at the HP Software Summit, HP had also said that even as a solutions software provider, they also agree with the processes and the people that are involved in the companies need to get more efficient in their own processes and procedures. So, with that said, this executive order does bring up a lot of bills, a lot of bills coming into play. Especially with, you'll notice that if you guys haven't heard about the new bill that's coming up, it's basically going to be seizing assets for anybody who is a cyber threat to U.S. companies. So with that, that could be its own topic in itself. However, that is also going to be a big one that this is going to pave legislation and those common set of voluntary standards that will affect the bills to come. So now, are there any questions? I kind of ran through this pretty quickly. So, any questions? Yes?
Okay, so if I get this right, the ISAOs are agreeing to voluntary standards to protect the information.
Yes.
To avoid revealing PII and all this.
Correct.
Right? And presumably they will be indemnified if they make mistakes.
Exactly.
Okay, and the next legislation we're expecting is a bill that's going to grant liabilities to companies who share information with these ISAOs.
Yeah.
So that if they're going to share all the information, because the ISAOs are going to protect that under their voluntary standards.
They're going to analyze it, protect it,
Right.
redact
so
it.
essentially this is a way to completely indemnify companies against releasing public information that can then be made available not only to intelligence agencies, but potentially the general public, right?
Potentially to the general public, not so
My
much.
mistake. I have these voluntary
Well.
standards, but I didn't quite follow them.
And see, there are going to be a lot of questions that come up with this bill and this executive order that even in the bill itself in its current state is not clear to the full extent. However, we also ask the question of how valuable is data now? So with having that insurance of, getting that liability taken off of companies just for sharing their cybersecurity information, it really goes to show how valuable that will be to our own government and to the industries and also to everybody else in the world. So there are a lot of questions, and I do want to state that this topic and presentation is meant to be informative and not influential. So as a community, we're going to have to think about these ideas, and I would love to hear these opinions and comments and questions like this. So any questions or comments you guys have, let's bring them up now. Go ahead, Mick. Glad to hear you.
Does it have a name yet, or is it just an executive order that this is what's going to be proposed?
It's
or?
the executive order of promoting private sector cybersecurity information sharing. It's ongoing right now. It is in fact, it just got passed in the House, I believe, with a 14-1 pass. So it will be moving on. It's going on and it's active right now.
And so I used to work for a company where the NetSec team decided to man in the middle all traffic at one point, which was like an ingenious move. So theoretically, passwords and stuff could be shared through, I guess, one of these things, and kind of what would prevent if they're all being indemnified, that there's no way of saying, hey, you know what, you guys fucked up, you're responsible.
And that's the beauty of the evolution of information security. There's always going to be something that's coming up, or a possibility or a way of breaching this data. And especially with the process and procedures, those will have to also evolve and possibly even in this case be built up to provide the best security against man-in-the-middle attacks, because that was actually one of the thoughts I was thinking in this bill as well, or in this executive order, and just this whole framework that's being laid out. So that's a good question, and that's something that we're going to also have to look into and find out. Yes.
Maybe I missed it, but is there any part of that framework laid out a technical framework? And by that I mean, say you've got a log solution, say you've got a SIEM, say you've got something that's saying, yes, we want this syslog data, or we're going to scrub it, or we're going to put it into this XML format. Is this all at that point kind of high level? We know what data, but we're not sure what data.
The executive order is more aimed for the process and the procedure of it. The executive order itself, obviously coming from the administration of, not from the technical side, but more of the executive side. This is definitely just going for the process and procedure. As far as the technical standpoint, as I showed, over here in this guy, and of course there's going to be a lot more information. This was very high level over here. But the idea, is to get that threat exchange database, or just a threat exchange centralized location to be able to push out to other industries. So integrating SIEMs and IDS IPS tools and any other security tools is definitely, obviously it's going to how it's going to be done. But this executive order in itself does not detail any when it comes to how it's going to redact information, or how it's going to even transfer.
It sounds like the answer to the question is no.
The answer to the question is no, as far as the executive order goes. Correct.
Cool. I was curious if something else is not. Excellent.
Was that orange?
Actually, went two-parter.
All right.
How does this affect international companies with a strong American presence? And if your data is transmitted overseas, does that make you more susceptible to intelligence agency reception through this framework?
That's actually a really good one. So, as far as international companies go, if the company is not bred in the United States or is not located in the United States, it does not go out to an international company. However, if it does belong to the United States but it's branched out somewhere else, then it's acceptable. It's a trusted source at that point. Can you repeat your second part of the question?
It's more of internet technology related.
Right.
Could, as a result of that, if they have a data center overseas, could protected health information end up in their logs as a result of this framework?
Well, as this framework stands, that's all going to depend on how the organization goes out with those processes. So with the way that this executive order is standing right now, they do not have a set standard for that. In fact, they didn't even go in depth that much, which is actually very surprising. One of the things that I didn't like about this executive order when reading it. However, when it comes to being susceptible to being starting to become monitored by the NSA or whatever the case may be in that aspect, that's an entirely different subject when it comes to as far as what's going to be that boundary. That was not clear in the executive order, and that's something that as a community we definitely should look into. Green shirt.
Doesn't this put a huge target on high trust enterprise distribution? It's like that's a central
This
system.
exactly.
Compromise that you could open up the gates.
And you're absolutely right. ISAOs will be a huge target, and it probably one of the biggest targets ever as they become more and more popular, especially the smaller ones. As the information security that's needed, any tools and processes and procedures that are needed for ISAOs, those are really going to have to be extremely strong. And coming back to the NSA on that, I mean, when we have any type of monitoring, especially from the federal government, going on with those information sharing and analysis organizations, that actually helps them. So, with that aspect, it's having another eye on what's going on. So, there's really a lot that goes on with that idea as well. So, I would have to agree and say that ISAOs will be a huge target when it comes time when these are more implemented. They already are implemented, but when these become more and more popular. I believe I had another hand.
The legal liability sounds kind of troubling. You're saying that if a company shares their information with the government, that they are then indemnified against legal liability. People can't sue them if there's a breach. Is that what that is saying?
Well, that's an entirely different bill in itself that's coming up this month. Yeah, that's going to be this month. It's actually just came out. I was reading up in the articles about it just the other day. It just popped up.
All the motivation for companies to improve their security posture.
And see, and that's also another idea. So, what was that?
If you have no liability involved, why not just don't put any security control on, call it
Well,
bot, and keep your
and see, that's something to read into the bill to see how, to what extent it goes through. But also to respond back to this, it's not sharing all information, but really cyber threat data with the government. So let's say you guys were to get compromised, or we did see, any type of threat that came in, maybe a CNC connection or whatever the case may be. That gets shared with the government, not necessarily every information, not social security numbers of people, not.
But what kinds of legal liability are companies being shielded from? Are they being shielded from class action lawsuits?
Lawsuits.
They're being shielded from lawsuits. So again, they've lost their motivation. Nobody's holding their feet to the fire anymore if they take the simple step of sharing that information with the government.
And it also depends on to what extent will the not be liable at that point. So to what extent do they still get protection on? Again, that's something in the bill that is definitely, you shake your head, but we as a community need to discuss these things as well and think of these ideas and, as far as that. So what was it? Yep.
I'd actually like to dovetail, but the way I've seen that happen in the past is like companies like ThreatStream, companies that do data aggregation like that. The legal liability doesn't say, oh, if you send this data to us, you're immune from being charged with any sort of negligence. It says if a breach occurs in which the data you sent to us is a key resource that was leveraged, you are indemnified. So I'd be willing to
Yes. We have a question over here.
Great that they're gonna not have that motivation to fix the things that they send out.
Oh, sure. Yeah, of course.
Oh, excuse me, we have a question over here. Yeah. White House. The White House, whitehouse.gov was the main source of this. So actually you'll be able to find something new just about every day when it comes to this. More and more information comes out, and certain things are passed and also revised as the day, as it continues. So there's a lot of revisions that happens. Even from a month ago when I started this topic, there's been changes. So as far as that, whitehouse.gov is one of the best, and also the DHS, so the Department of Homeland Security, is also the other main source to follow up with this. Do we have?
Yeah, I just want to point out that it's available at the government printing office, and it's HR 1560
Nice.
1560. If anybody's
Cool.
interested.
Thank you. Great.
Just one other thing that just came to mind. It said something about confiscating things from like a quote unquote hacker. Only what about people doing bug bounties? And if someone's company
That's a
just so
good
happens to be sending that data back, and you're working on a bug bounty, all of a sudden you're like put in the back of a truck with handcuffed and all that, and all your shit's taken. So.
And bug bounties are actually going to be, that's actually also a different topic when it comes to the changes that are coming into play, especially with the other bill that I was briefly explaining of any type of cyber threat happening to the U.S. companies. To what extent is our administration going to punish them? That's actually a huge topic, and it's actually most likely going to affect the bug bounties more than anybody else. So I am also interested to know about that, because that's a good point, and that's for the next bill to come up.
Does that mean that we have to move if we want to keep this field? I mean,
There's going to be changes in our field, regardless, and we're all facing those all the time. Yeah.
I'll say, just to add on to that question, it was for foreign nationals, not US. For now.
For now.
I can see that once they get in there, maybe going. Yeah, a lot of countries already have that strict, information share. And you're like France, I think there was a lot of people that couldn't go to home because they cannot legally export or exploit. So it was really, I think, kind of the first step for our government to say, all you kind of bad people outside the borders, we now can legally try to seize assets for that. But it's a different bill from this. It's another one. It's a
Different bill, but yeah, I mean we're definitely having some very different bills coming up that affect bug bounties and other entities that are also doing things like that. Simply put, so I think I saw another hand right here. Yeah.
So you mentioned the Anthem IOC sharing with HITRUST, and do you happen to know when that occurred with respect to the date that the breach was discovered and the date that Anthem announced the breach? Do you know when the IOC sharing happened? Whether it was between those, after?
When it comes to with HITRUST, I don't know by the time that actually happened and from when the IOCs got out. But however, when the IOCs did get out, and that's also where the information sharing and analysis organizations come into play. That would speed up the process of detection, and then analyzing, and then sharing.
And do you know what form those IOCs were provided in? What form do people provide the IOCs to HITRUST? I just don't know.
So I was reading up about that, and these are shared through Styx and Taxi. So those are two different protocols for sharing with the government, or sharing from the government information, as well as that. However, as far as more strict protocols, that I am not aware of right now. So, any other questions or comments? The purpose of this, and I know the presentation was a little bit shorter, but the hope for this one was to get everybody talking, because a lot of people have been pretty opinionated on this from the ones I brought up in the past, and so really I wanted to get everybody just almost engaging. So is everybody, looks like we're all good now then. All right, well, thank you guys for your time today.